and welcome to this special program of Rajya Sabha Television on manufacturing sector. Manufacturing sector is that sector of economy which deals with production of goods, and it is often described as one of the weakest link in India's economy. In this special report, we will discuss the problems faced by the manufacturing sector and industry expectations from the government.
Manufacturing is the Achilles heel of the Indian economy. The deceleration in investment in manufacturing is particularly worrying. Consequently, there is no uptick yet in manufacturing.
Chidambaram's worries may reflect in Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's maiden speech when he rises to present this year's general budget on the 10th of July. Like his predecessors, Jaitley would be equally concerned about the decline in India's manufacturing sector that has been in the negative in the last 5 quarters. A decline in India's industrial production and manufacturing sector is responsible for dragging down India's economic growth to below 5% in the last 2 years.
Currently, because of the downturn that we've been going through, the average capacity utilization in the component sector is around 60%. It's very difficult for me to attribute as to how much is a sort of lack in, it's majorly because of lack in demand.
The slowdown began in 2011-12. In 9 quarters, the GDP growth rate declined from 7.5% in quarter 1 of 2011-12 to 4.4% in quarter 1 of 2013-14. Overall, the Indian economy grew at 4.5% in 2012-13 and at 4.7% in 2013-14. But the manufacturing sector is seen declining 0.2% in the financial year 2013-14 compared with 1.1% growth the previous year, dragging down the overall economy. It is likely to be the worst year for manufacturing since 2000. The sector has grown at an impressive rate over the years, with a compound annual growth rate of around 10% between 2005 and 2011. Reviving the manufacturing sector is very important for India because of its job creation potential. The National Manufacturing Policy has set a goal of increasing the share of manufacturing in GDP to 25% and to create 100 million jobs over a decade.
This will keep on increasing. It will, in fact, the increase of employment will keep on multiplying if these facilities are made available, because today the world is not looking for mass production items from India because they know that we have only small factories. Scaling up the factory is the real requirement of the country.
But reviving the manufacturing sector in a consumption economy like India's is not easy for any government. Experts point to legacy issues that afflict India's manufacturing sector. On top of that is difficulty in doing business in India.
We as a nation are rated very, very poorly in terms of ease of doing business. I think it's a first responsibility of the government to ensure that our rating improves.
These are lack of an industrial base and robust supply chain, lack of infrastructure like roads, seaports and airports for timely movement of raw material and finished goods.
Transportation has a lot of problems. For transporting products from one state to another state, it takes a lot of time to cross the border. So if you have to carry something from Punjab to Tamil Nadu or Tamil Nadu to Gujarat, you have a lot of problem in passing through states. It takes a lot of time. Transportation cost of cotton from Gujarat to Coimbatore is substantially higher than transportation of cost from Africa to Coimbatore. So naturally Coimbatore will find that importing cotton from Africa may be more viable than using our own cotton.
A complex and multi-layered tax structure at the centre, state and local levels makes it very difficult to manufacture in India.
If you even look at the simple mobility that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, cars are heavily taxed. A small car, if you look at the total tax on a car, which is from the time that it leaves the factory to the time that you buy it and you actually use it on the road, a small car like a Maruti Alto or something like that would attract a tax of about more than 50% total. For a larger vehicle, a diesel vehicle, for example, would be about 78%, 70%, 78%. So that is just the taxation on the vehicle.
A businessman doing business in India finds it difficult to manufacture and make profit, as it is easier and more profitable to import finished products and sell them in India.
It is unfortunate that at this point of time it is cheaper to actually import products, finished products into the country rather than manufacture or assemble this, because when you import the components and then you assemble them over here, they turn out to be more expensive. So somewhere there is a tax differential which is actually adding to the problem.
Problems for the manufacturing sector do not end here. India is woefully short of power. That increases the cost of production, as manufacturers have to resort to diesel gensets and captive power plants to keep their machines moving.
The challenge is that when there's a power cut, one, because sometimes in the switchover process there could be damage in some of the critical components that you manufacture, and secondly, captive power is almost twice more expensive than the normal power grid supply.
In a highly competitive market like textile products, India competes with countries like China and neighbors like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, where cost of power as a component of input cost is far less than India.
In spinning, about 12 to 15% of the cost is power cost. But when you go to weaving or processing, it comes down. When garments, it will be further down. But the point is, you have to compare with, for example, in spinning, if we take 12 to 15% of cost, every other country also does the same thing. So if their power cost is lower than our cost, then to the extent of 10 to 15%, you are not able to compete with them.
Industry experts also point to rigid labour laws for poor growth of the manufacturing sector in India.
For scaling up our production facilities, we have to reform our labour laws. Our labour laws are very rigid. It is not possible to get people for fixed time employment. There are restrictions on deploying women in the night shift. There are restrictions on the number of hours you can deploy. These are not applicable to major competing countries like Bangladesh, China, etc. And therefore in competition you lose out.
Lack of skilled manpower for specialized work also compounds the problem. Relatively high cost of finance for manufacturing is identified as one of the biggest problems for the manufacturing sector.
The cost of finance in India is also very high. It's nearly 11 to 12%, right? Whereas internationally the cost of finance is probably 5 to 6%. Now that is also a disadvantage. So if I have to set up an infrastructure over here and the cost of my finance is higher than the cost abroad, then again that is another disability. So it's not just the inverted duty structure.
Besides domestic factors, external factors also affect India's growth as a manufacturing nation. In the last 2 decades, rise of China as a global manufacturing house has impacted India's own manufacturing sector. Indian markets are flooded with cheap Chinese products.
Product made in China at that cost or at that price is allowed to move into the country at normal rates of duty. And everyone knows what kind of pricing the Chinese do, and I think rightly or wrongly that is their competitive advantage today. They are able to make good quality products as well as all qualities of products, but their costing is definitely different than what it is in India.
India's rise as an IT and BPO superpower created a huge demand for telecom products, computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones and other computer hardware related products. As per some accounts, demand for these telecommunication and computer hardware products in India will touch $400 billion a year by 2020. With its manufacturing sector in the doldrums, India is expected to meet only 20% of this demand from domestic production. India's domestic IT product market for smartphones and laptops is flooded with imports from Japan, China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Thailand and other Southeast Asian countries.
कंपोनेंट सारे चाइना से आते हैं, कुछ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग चाइना में होती है, वहाँ एक सेपरेट टॉपिक है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की प्रॉब्लम है, वो एक अलग इशू आ जाता है जो आम लोग कहते हैं कि भाई अगर मैं ये चाहूँ कि मेरे को अभी एक सेट बनाना है, 50 सेट बनाने हैं और उसमें मुझे रंग हरा करना है, तो हरे रंग का पार्ट मंगाने मुझे इंडिया में 15 दिन 20 दिन लग जाते हैं, चाइना में अभी जाओ आधे घंटे में लेके बन जाता है.
Industry experts point to India signing the ITA-1 agreement with the World Trade Organization in 1997 as the main reason behind India's IT telecommunication equipment market being flooded with cheap foreign exports. The ITA-1 agreement allows Indian traders to import smartphones, laptops, tablets, cameras and scores of other similar products duty-free.
The classification of list was changed by World Customs Organization, and because of that change, the equipments which were not supposed to be covered in the agreement of 97 look to have been covered. So in the last 10 years, almost everything in telecom is imported duty free. Not only duty free, but also India has not prescribed any specifications for testing. Usually when you export product to any country, then they ask for some certification. We allowed without any certification.
Some other industry experts do not agree with this argument. They contend that the ITA-1 agreement with the WTO allows Indians to have world-class IT and telecom products in India even if they are imported.
It's an incorrect assumption to say that that hampered the manufacturing industry. What it did was it exposed the Indian citizens to international level products, right? What we did not do was create the ecosystem for the local manufacturers to build products which were matching that.
It is time for us to slip into a small break. After the break, we will discuss the industry's expectation from the government to revive the sector. Welcome back. In this segment, we will discuss the steps taken by the government to revive manufacturing sector in India and long-term opportunities for India to emerge as a manufacturing powerhouse.
The manufacturing sector is that part of the economy that deals with production of goods like televisions, fridges, mobile handsets, computers, cars and countless other products that are used in day-to-day life and also for specialized industrial work. A nation's economic strength and prowess is measured by the state of its manufacturing sector.
There is the one window approach which is prevalent, for example, in Taiwan, right? There is cost of finance. There is a huge marketplace which exists, for example, in China. There are lots of design houses, and it's not just a matter of, this type of infrastructure. There has to be an ecosystem. You need to have an ecosystem of component suppliers. You need to have an ecosystem of design houses. You need to have an ecosystem of ODMs which exists. So there is an entire ecosystem around that which needs to exist.
India's manufacturing sector or industrial production is weak in comparison with other similar economies like China. Countries like the USA, Germany, Japan and now South Korea and China became leading economies because each of them has a strong manufacturing base.
We as a company, Havells, we have a joint venture there, and we feel that no time is wasted at all, and the production, the total focus is on the production.
The manufacturing industry in India has gone through various phases of development over a period of time. Since independence in 1947, the manufacturing sector has grown from the initial phase of building the industrial foundation through public sector in 50s and 60s. After that, India followed a policy of license permit Raj in the 70s and 80s. India started to follow the path of economic liberalization since 1991, and the manufacturing sector witnessed robust growth between 2000 and 2011. However, in the last 2 to 3 years, India's manufacturing sector started showing signs of distress.
Unfortunately, manufacturing sector has stalled over the last few years. Number of steps that the government can take is, of course, one is to improve the investment climate for investors. Today, the investment climate is very bad. People are reluctant to invest because of the various type of risks that they face.
The manufacturing sector contributes about 15% of India's GDP and 50% to the country's exports. The manufacturing sector employed 58 million people in 2008. As per some estimates, every job created in the manufacturing sector has a multiplier effect, creating jobs in the services sector. In a country like India, where employment generation is one of the key policy issues, reviving manufacturing is a priority for any government.
Minister has talked about creating 100 smart cities. That is a huge opportunity for India, because 100 smart cities will not happen without using technology effectively. They will not happen without making sure data servers are in place. They will not happen without making sure that connectivity is in place, sensors are in place, computing devices are in place. And that is an opportunity which exists. So we will automatically create a demand. We will automatically create a situation where our people who are so good at creating applications and solutions will create applications and solutions for this. So that automatically these building blocks will come in place. So we will definitely go on that path of create manufacturing in India, not just for India, but hopefully for also the world.
Experts say the new government's emphasis on creating 100 world-class cities cannot be achieved without reviving the manufacturing sector.
The Honorable Prime Minister has talked about creating 100 smart cities. That is a huge opportunity for India, because 100 smart cities will not happen without using technology effectively. They will not happen without making sure data servers are in place. They will not happen without making sure that connectivity is in place, sensors are in place, computing devices are in place. And that is an opportunity which exists. So we will automatically create a demand. We will automatically create a situation where our people who are so good at creating applications and solutions will create applications and solutions for this. So that automatically these building blocks will come in place. So we will definitely go on that path of create manufacturing in India, not just for India, but hopefully for also the world.
As the first requisite, India needs to build a better road network, improve its infrastructure, and remove policy bottlenecks to revive manufacturing. Implementation of a common goods and services tax will be a big boost to the manufacturing sector.
About one window approach, driving e-governance, removing unnecessary procedures which are not required for setting up business, right? And then they have the MSIPS policy, right? The SEZ policy which they are relooking, everything is being relooked at. Once you look at all of these things, right? Create the domestic demand, look at ease of doing business, right? Remove any issues related to taxation and policies, etc., which are not stable, but are, you change them every now and then, right? Once you look at all of these are steps in the right direction. So I think so. With time, we will definitely be able to become a manufacturing powerhouse.
India also needs a lot of foreign direct investment in the manufacturing sector.
Little more, I think, emphasis on special economic zones and all for investment, little more foreign investment, bringing in foreign direct investment. Those are the areas, I think, which can trigger more investment.
Industry experts say China is far ahead in attracting foreign investors, and Indian bureaucrats and policymakers need to change their approach.
Chinese government has been to provide employment to their people. And the state governors or the provincial governors have they are empowered to take certain decisions. They normally, when you go there and talk to them, they ask, how many people are you going to employ? That's the first question. And if we say that we are going to employ 1,500 people, they say, if you were to employ 2,500, I'll give you this incentive. You can employ 5,000 people, I'll give you this incentive.
Experts point out that Indian youth are attracted to white-collar jobs that do not require manual labor. Educated Indians prefer to work on computers in air-conditioned rooms rather than in a factory. They point out the need to change this mindset.
It wasn't there some years back, but I think since the time that the services sector has become so important in the country, I think even a mechanical engineer would like to actually work just on a computer. So we need to actually get into a mindset where people are willing to dirty their hands. Unless and until you are willing to dirty your hands, you will never be able to contribute to manufacturing. Manufacturing cannot be done on office tables. It has to be done in factories. So we have to generate the right kind of skills for people to be able to operate in factories, and we need to be able to make this a job which people would like to do.
Change the mindset.
Change that mindset, because the mindset over the last 2 decades have changed in the opposite direction.
As per the latest data, a decrease in China's working population and rise in wages in that country can open opportunities for the Indian manufacturing industry to meet a part of global demand for manufactured products, which is largely dependent on Chinese manufacturers.
And I think the comparative advantage of a country is something that is governed not only by how competitive the industry is, but also how competitive the environment is in which they operate. So if you add up, if you just look at individually the competitiveness of Indian company and comparative with Chinese company, you may find in many cases the Indian companies may be far more competitive within the 4 walls of their company. But the moment you add A and B together, that is the internal competitiveness of the country, of the company, with the external environment, we lose out in India.
The manufacturing sector presents both a challenge and a unique opportunity to India as a nation.
India could very well repeat its success story in software sector in manufacturing as well. Revival of manufacturing sector will provide immense employment opportunities to India's youth and will also save a lot of foreign currency and import bill. Thanks for watching this special program. Keep watching Rajya Sabha television for the special coverage of Budget 2014.